Hey, tell us the one about the guy in the white mask.
Again?
Okay. There's this girl named Lori, a high school student, honor roll, shy around boys. She got this job, babysitting a couple kids. It was supposed to be $20 for pizza and table and long talks on the telephone with her friends who were supposed to also be babysitting. She wasn't one really to listen to a lot of radio or to turn on the news on television, so she hadn't heard about the escaped maniac from the nearby institution, the insane asylum. It was Halloween night, and she didn't know that he was coming home. Halloween Resurrection is probably the first time in the Halloween series that I completely find it hard to say anything about the film that's in any way constructive or positive. Make no mistake, I'm open to the idea that I'm just wrong and there's something I'm missing. I think that the film is just simply horrifically bad. And I understand why it's bad. That's probably the more terrifying thing. It's a film that was created to try and capitalize on the success of the Blair Witch Project and the other found footage films that were popular at the time. The previous film, Halloween H2O, hadn't left a lot of room for a sequel, so it was always going to be a tough task, but that could be said of the second film as well, so you'd expect another soft reboot to have been the answer. Instead, they decided to follow the Halloween 2 path of a direct next moment sequel, which a lot of fans enjoyed a great deal when the bridge between Halloween 1 and 2 was basically non-existent. Here, however, it's problematic because they have to actually rewrite part of the previous film to make that happen. And oh god, it is lame. One of the problems with retrofitting your previous film is that you simply don't have a lot of credibility with your new story. In fact, I would say there is no credibility with the new story. And worse, the film you're left with has the unenviable task of trying to tell a story with all new characters in an environment that's supposedly familiar, but let's face it, they stumble around a house that should be no larger than your average residential house, but they seem to go for track miles. The film is simply a haunted house exercise, no different than you'd pay at this time of the year to go and walk and have actors jump out of the shadows at you or make loud sounds, and you're chased at the end by a guy holding a chainsaw. If it'll start, right, Christian? Halloween Resurrection is just cheap, and the characters are unlikable, and some of the characters, such as the ones played by Tyra Banks and Busta Rhymes, think they're in a different movie, one that's a lot more campy, and maybe even a sitcom. It's a really dysfunctional film that really has nothing to say and nowhere to go. I would argue that Halloween Resurrection is probably one of the worst of the theatrically released found footage films of the entire cycle. Michael Myers is in the film too much, and at the same time feels like he could have been replaced with any other serial killer from any other franchise at this point. There's nothing in this Michael Myers that recalls the 1978 version, or really any of the other versions in any of the other films that came since. It's just a found footage slasher film. It's nothing more. And for some people, they might get something out of that, though the vast majority seem to resent this film even existing, let alone its horrific execution. So what is it about? Well, it's basically just the idea of what if Michael Myers invaded a reality show? It seems incredibly topical. The problem is that Series 6 and Sean Cunningham's extreme close-up had already kind of mined the territory. But still, this could have worked. There is an instance that I could see where a very stylish, very smart filmmaker could have brought out all of the possible scares, and it could have been a slight but enjoyable feature. It's not. It is a slog, it's boring, the deaths are uninspired, they're basically shaky cam, drop the camera type ordeals. And like many problematic found footage films, the idea that stagnant cameras caught this footage means that someone edited this into this shape later. It's a very weird storytelling idea. At least with something like Blair Witch, you could understand for the sake of a court trial why the footage would be reassembled. Here, it's actually dramatically structured. So that doesn't make any sense. The other thing that really just sinks this whole ordeal is that the aesthetic of the film is ugly. It's hard to watch. It's not particularly engaging. And you're just left kind of wondering, like, why am I watching this? Why am I enduring this runtime? And it all comes down to, of course, karate kicks and bad one-liners. It's actually kind of insulting, not just to Halloween fans, but to the horror genre in general. But let's talk about the opening for a second. Because I glossed over a major component of why a lot of fans are upset with this film. I may be in the minority here, but I am not opposed to killing off Laurie Strode. Giving that character a proper send-off, even if it's not victory, is not something I really reject. I think that that could work. It doesn't here, mainly because although Laurie kind of looks like Laurie this time, which is nice, she's in an insane asylum? Or at least some kind of halfway house, home, hospital? It doesn't make a lick of sense. And while I don't object to recreating the sequence from the fifth film in which Jamie and Michael share a moment together, here it's undercut when Michael is just a robot, like one of those animatrons from the third film, who ultimately really just wants to kill. He's not looking for anything else. There's no humanity left. I think that undercuts the reason to do that scene at all. Fans felt cheated. As much as we felt the lack of Donald Pleasance in H2O, we really feel it here. There is not a character to bring gravitas to this production. At least Jamie Lee Curtis's performance in H2O was engaging and fully invested. Here, everyone seems to be going through the motions, realizing they're making a cheap horror film for an audience that'll probably buy just about anything you throw on screen. It's a cynical way to make a film, and it doesn't work. About themes, there really aren't any. There's some kind of vague notion of the idea that tragedy as entertainment is bad, I guess. But who doesn't believe that? Who's the person who's going to argue that watching other people suffer and die is a good thing for our society? No one. So the movie can't even really take a position because there's no position to take. In the end, we're left with 90 minutes of lame slasher hijinks, badly told, badly shot, and of course, since it's a later Halloween film, studio interference reduced it to barely a movie. It's not even really much of a music video. Which, hold that thought, because Michael Myers is about to become the star of 2 music videos.